Okay, you guys that just walked in, I'll come by and just quick check your homework. All right, so you had to match these up. And I kind of wanted you to do it without the calculator. This is a y squared. It's opening left or right. What does the negative tell me? It's opening which way? Left. Okay, so 4, this is where your P is going to be, and they didn't give you any directrix or focus, so that didn't matter. So you were looking for something that opened up kind of, it's hard to tell on this one because the scale is different on this one. An x squared, and it's positive, opening up vertex 0, 0. Stop me if you have any questions. These guys, an x squared, negative, you're opening down. Okay. A y squared, you're opening left.
I'm so sorry.
This was a good one. They changed both your vertices on these. So were you able to find these? I wanted you to try without the calcs. Okay. What's that?
You can find these in your calculator? You said without.
Without. I wanted you to do it without the calcs. Well, you can if it's a y equals, if you change it around. You can put anything into y equal. If it's a y squared, yeah, if it's a y squared, you can take the square root and do two of them. I didn't want you to go through all. I want you to keep it in this format. Okay, stop me if you have any questions. Is everybody able to find the F part, the P in this, the focus? I'm losing my voice. Focus and the directrix based off the P. Remember, the focus is inside the parabola.
Why is...
Can I make it bigger?
Oh, never mind.
Better?
Yeah.
The directrix is always outside. It doesn't touch that parabola. And the directrix is a line. If it's a horizontal line, it's a y equal. If it's a vertical line, it's an x equal. So therefore, if it's an x equal, just the x is changing. If it's a y equal, just the y change. And you can gladly use the formulas if you like the formulas. I include the formulas if you like them, but you kind of have to figure out what you're doing anyway, so it's easier to do it without the formulas. Any questions? This is important. Everybody can find P. You can find your focus and your directrix. Are you able to do it without using the formulas? Can you just do it off the graph? So much easier. Because with these formulas, you're still going to have to decide which one are you subtracting from. Whenever you have horizontal movement, your x is changing. Vertical movement, your y is changing. And remember, the x is the h of the vertex. The h is the x of the vertex. The k is the y of the vertex. Always, no matter which side it's on, those don't change. Keep the square on the left-hand side. Today we're going to complete the square, which makes it a little bit, I like completing the square with this because it makes it a little bit more obvious what we're doing. Okay. You want to know which way it's going, where it's opening, your directrix, your focus. See, the directrix and the focus aren't that scary, right? You know, what happens in Algebra 2 is the first time you see something. And sometimes we don't always have a lot of time to go through that like we would like to. So we kind of breeze over things a little bit. But the good part is you guys did a little of this, so that was good. Guys, we're going to continue with this, but this is your standard one. Remember I showed you the first day that thing with the ax squared, with the by squared and e, and you did a little sign on curve fitting? This is your standard form. So to get this into vertex form, you complete the square. And we've completed the square before. But he is, you want to find where your square is. So which variable is squared? The y. So get anything with y to the left side. Get everything else to the right side. Your square and your variables go to one side, whichever one you're squaring. So let's get this to one side. So I'm just going to add them and get them out of here. I'm just going to reflect this. You could have done it the other way and then multiplied by a -1. Either way you want to do this is fine. This is where, leave a space, we're going to complete your square. If we add or subtract from one side, because it's an equal sign, we have to add or subtract from the other side. Get your square with its other variable part to the left side. Get everything else to the right side. This sets this up for vertex form. You can complete the square on one side, and then at the end, if you're comfortable, move it to the other side, that's fine. Lily, question?
It's okay to have the X on the other side?
I want your square on this side.
So you just have the one variable over there, like whichever one's squared.
The square and its component go over here, because it's going to match up to either one of these. It's going to match up to either one. So we're going to keep the square and whatever other component is here on one side and everything else to the right side. So now we complete the square. What's half of 2? What's 1 squared? So we add 1 here. So to keep this equal, we add 1 here. And then we just combine like terms. Okay, we're almost there. We need this to say, this coefficient in front of the y1, whatever square, has to be a 1. And it's a 1, so we're good. That has to say x minus h. So we've got to do something to factor that. What can we factor? Whatever it is, we have to factor out whatever's in front of x. So we're going to factor out the 4. This has to be a 1x. This has to be a 1y. Okay? And now you're in your format. So from y minus k squared, what's my vertex? X term first. 8, -1. The x always goes before the y. Always. Doesn't matter what side they're on. Danny, question?
No, Bo just wasn't sure what, because I got 1.
He thought it was a T.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had already put a line there. Yeah, I should put it in another color. This is where we're going to fill in when we complete the square. So we filled it in here, and because it's an equal sign, we filled it in there. If you weren't looking when I had them there, you probably didn't realize it was a 1. Okay, so what's P? This is P. So P is what? 1. So P is positive, and it's a y squared. Which way is it opening? Okay, so let's graph. Today we're going to put all the intercepts in too. Okay, so we have a vertex 8, -1. So we're sketching, so just approximate this. And we're opening to the right. So somehow we're going like this. Okay. This makes it an easy one. I find sometimes it's easy if you write the vertex right on your graph and you look for the axis of symmetry. What's my axis of symmetry? Y equals -1. That means the movement is in my y, right? So now when I come get my focus over here, I'm moving 1 from the y. Oh, my movement is my x. My movement is my x. So if I'm moving 1 to the right of this number, what's it going to be? 9. Okay? I'm going to move 1 to the left and make a line. And the line has an equation to it. If it's vertical, it's an x equal. So my x is going to change. What's my x going to be? 7. That's how easy that is. Work the graph. Now, let's look for intercepts. I've got an x-intercept when y is equal to 0. and a y-intercept when x is equal to 0. And I realize one of these you won't have, but we're still going to put them in algebraically. We always do the intercepts algebraically. So we're going to come back to either equations. This equation, this equation, this equation, this equation, they're all the same equation. So pick which one works best for you. So if I'm going to solve for my x, which one's the easiest one to substitute into y? The first one. Or even right here, right? I can go to this guy. I'm going to substitute in a y of 0. This is going to give me a 0, isn't it? Use that one. God bless you. All of these are equivalent equations. Just keep it as a reduced fraction. And that is a reduced fraction. And make sure it makes sense. If my vertex is at 8, and I'm going to the right, is 33/4 to the right of 8? So it makes sense, right? So this guy right here, is that a little bit to the right of 8? Because 32 over 4 would be 8, right? So it's a little bit to the right. I'm a little wide on my thing. So here's my x-intercept. Now, do the same with your y-intercept. You're going to put an x equals 0 in here. You can do this whichever one you like to. It's probably easiest to go to one of these guys because you're going to take the square and take the square root. I'm sorry, I'm just losing my voice. So when we get to this point, I'm going to use this guy right here. It's already got y by itself. I'm going to substitute in a 0. This gives me negative 32. And all you have to do is get to this point. If you took the square root, what happens when you take the square root of a negative? Yeah, I have no real roots. No real y-intercepts. Right? Can't do it. In our real world, can't do it. It's imaginary, like Ali said. I don't want imaginary. I want real. So, easy way. You can pick whichever one works best for you. Sometimes you're going to see, if I can knock out my y's right here, knock them out. This one, when you're doing the one with the roots with the square root, try to pick the final formula. It works the best. Good? Okay. All right. Pretty easy, right? Okay. We have a lovely fraction. So since we love our fractions so much, why don't we just get rid of it? Yes. So what can we multiply both sides by? 6. And I'm really not fond of that negative sign out there either, right? Because then I'm going to be distributing my negative. So why do I multiply both sides by negative 6? So this is going to come negative 6y. This is going to wipe that out. Okay. And that doesn't look too bad. That's doable. So we said get the square. Which guy has the square? X. So is it going to open up or down or left or right? Up and down. So I've got my x squared. I'm going to keep my x squared and my x component together. I'm going to move this negative 2. I'm going to plus 2 to both sides. And I'm just going to flip this guy around and put my square on the left-hand side. And I'm going to leave a little space so I can complete the square. If you add to one side, you add to the other side. Okay, so what's half of 4? 2. What's 2 squared? 4. 4. This gives me negative 6y plus 6. Now, notice my coefficient of y has to be, wait a second, sorry, x. My coefficient of x has to be a 1. My coefficient of y has to be a 1. And that's got to be in parentheses. So I got to factor out whatever's in front of it. So I'm going to factor out a negative 6. So am I good? So which way am I opening now? Down. Why? P is negative. So this is 4P right here. Let's find out what P is. Just reduce it. Keep it as a fraction. It's easier to do when you're trying to get your points. Okay, so it's a negative, so we're opening down. What's my vertex? 1. Good. Take them out the opposite. The x guy comes first. No matter which side it's on, the x always comes first. Okay, so now we know a little bit about this. It was funny, I graded a set of tests for Miss Dayton and last night, and the kids had a sketch, and they had an equation of a function, and then they had something that looked like this, and they had to say why it wasn't a cubic function, and the cubic function said blah 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 plus 20. So they said, one of them said, this could not possibly be 20. Like, there were no numbers at all. They were sketches. So I guess in Algebra 2, you're just starting to sketch. But you guys are getting the hang of sketching. I'm like, oh, they'll get it by next year. I'll just move it out of my way. It's weird, isn't it? I'll just move it out of the way. My trash is over here. Okay, so 2, -1. I just thought it was funny seeing it, you know, where they're looking at it like, oh no, this could possibly not be 20. Okay.
Is it a -2?
Oh, it is a -2. Sorry. Thank you. Oops, still in the wrong spot. Okay, so now, this is going to open down. Now here's a little problem. Do I cross where the 0, 0 is? Am I to the left of it? Am I to the right of it? So why don't we find our intercepts first? Okay, let's find the intercepts first. It's going to make a lot more sense. So when my y is 0, I'm going to look for my x-intercept. That's going to help me to see where is this going. So if I want my x-intercept, I'd probably go with this guy right here. Because obviously I'm going to get 2. 2 of them means I had to take the square root of something, right? So I'm going to use this guy. I'm going to put the 0 in. So x plus 2. This will give me -1 times a -6. Gives me a 6. I'm going to take the square root. Remember that you get a plus or minus radical 6 because I'm opening down. Aren't I going to hit the x-axis twice? Right? And just leave it to me like this. -2 plus or minus radical 6. Now, plus or minus radical 4 is a 2. So I'm a little bit more than a 2. So if I took -2 and I added a little bit more than a 2, doesn't that put me into the positive? That's the only guy I care about. So this is probably just crossing over like this. Do you see what I mean about that? Where am I from that 0, 0? So if we find the x-intercept first, we're cool. Y-intercept when x is 0, I would go to this guy. Easiest. Get the x's out of there. Or you can use the same other ones you used before. Whichever one you prefer to use. So that would be 0. And so y would be a third. And that looks about right, doesn't it? So I've got 0, 1/3. And I have -2 plus or minus radical 6, 0. There's my intercepts. My p. And if this guy is here, -2, 1, make sure you kind of pay attention to where your focus is. My focus has to come down 1.5, doesn't it? So aren't I going to have to cross over the x-axis? So don't put your focus up here. Make sure you just get a placement. So your focus is down here somewhere. So your focus says, I'm moving the x or the y when I'm going up and down? The y. So here I am at -2. So let's think this out. 1.5 down. If I come down 1, I just got another half to go down, right? So there's my answer. -2, -1/2. Just think it out logically. It's a fraction, but just say I come down part of it. 3/2 is 1.5. Now I got to go up. This is my y equals. Okay, and again I'm changing my y, so this makes sense to me, right? So I don't care about my x. I'm at 1, and I'm going 1.5 up. So that puts me at 2.5. So just start like this. I'm at 2.5, and flip it to an improper fraction. Is it wrong? No, but it probably looks better as an improper fraction. We didn't until we did the intercept. So I want to see, so do I make this where it could go like this? Do I make it like this? How wide do I make this thing? I don't know. So if I find out my intercepts first, and I notice this, and put this in your calculator, put in -2 plus radical 6. It's going to give you like point something, but it's going to be positive. And also this guy right here, doesn't this tell me I'm going to cross above this line? This y-intercept tells me I'm going to cross here, not down here. If I cross down here, I'd be to the left of the 0, 0. The only thing, it's just logistically, you want to place it. So do your intercept first. This is where intercepts play a big part. Okay? Okay, take the next one, and let's get it in vertex form. See if you can get it in vertex form. I through by a -2 and got rid of this because you want your leading one to be positive, or you could keep it negative and then just move it to the other side or get rid of it at the end. So multiply by a -2 first every term. Get your x's to one side. Keep everything else to the other side. Absolutely. So let's multiply everything by a -2. So I'm going to multiply each one of these terms by a -2. So this is going to give me -2y. You multiply by +2, you can do that.
No, I multiplied by -2, but for some reason, I didn't multiply the x and then 1/2 by -2.
And you just got a negative in front of your x?
No, like, I just crossed out the -1/2 instead of just, like, distributing it to the left.
Oh, I see what you did. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay, so you're there? Are we okay now?
Yeah.
Let's add 1. And then just flip it around. Complete your square. So this gives me my x plus 1 squared, 1, 1. And this gives me my -2y plus 2. Take out the -2. Sorry, y minus 1. So this tells me I'm opening which way? Down. What's my vertex? -1, 1. Okay, so here I am at -1, 1. I got the same situation. Do I cross the 0, 0 to the left or to the right of it? Right? How do I sketch this? So do your x-intercept and your y-intercept first. So it might be easy to do your y-intercept, right? Because if I know where I cross the y-axis, it's not going to help me sketch. So my y-intercept is when x is 0. So get this out of here. Look, x is 0, x is 0. What's my y-intercept? 1/2. So I choose to do this one just so I could sketch this. I'll write it out. So if I take these out, y is equal to 1/2. So here's where I cross, up here. So now, doesn't my sketch make more sense?
Yeah.
Right? Just do your intercepts first when it's close like that. If I'm going up, it doesn't really matter because I'm sketching. If I'm going down and I'm crossing by the 0, 0, that's the only thing really that's going to bother you. And pick whichever easiest to do at first. When you get two of them is the one with the square. You're going to take the square root, so go to your equation first. Okay, so finish that up for homework.